The Festival of Epiphany is the revelation that Christ, the highest spiritual being in the universe, is going to enter into a physical body. And this revelation was had by the three magi as well as the shepherds, but this festival tends to focus on the magi. And if you know Rudolf Steiner's Christology, you know that he purports that there were two separate Jesus children. One was visited by the shepherds and one was visited by the magi. And he says that this is the reason why there's two different genealogies in the two Gospels for the Jesus children, because it was actually two kids, and at the age of 12 on the Jupiter return, one of the egos of one child, the Solomon Jesus, who happens to be Zarathustra, comes over into the Nathan Jesus child. And what you have happen is that that's when Jesus is left behind, and he's in the temple dazzling the rabbis with his sudden knowledge and understanding about these deep spiritual truths. And so anyway, that's a bit of an aside, but back to the baby Jesus that the Magi visit, that they get the impulse from the star above and travel from distant lands to give the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And I was always intrigued by those three gifts, and you hear so many different explanations about what the symbolic significance is about these gifts. And one of the things I love about Rudolf Steiner is that he has a complete cosmology in which he characterizes these different time periods, and it enables us to understand where we've come from, where we're at, and where we're going. So he deals with the mysteries of time in a way that no other esotericist has really articulated. Madame Blavatsky did it a bit, and some other theosophists, but to me, Rudolf Steiner is the guy for this sort of thing. And so what he has to say about these gifts is really interesting. And in the first age after the flood, the sinking of Atlantis, we have under the sign of Cancer, which is the double spiral, which indicates the end of one era and the beginning of another. We have the ancient Indian civilization becoming the predominant cultural center on Earth, and it's from this civilization that you get the Vedas and the Upanishads, and it's actually the seeds of the Indian civilization that still exists today. It's such a remarkable thing. And he says that this took place, this age of Cancer was in the 7000 BC range. I can't remember the exact number, and it runs for 2160 years. And so India is the predominant culture. You have this age in which the spiritual world is accessible to the vision of the Indian people. They were oriented towards the spirit. They considered the physical world to be a maya, or a veil, an illusion, and many of them preferred the spiritual world, which they experienced in their dreams, and they experienced those dream and thought pictures as more real than the physical world, so kind of antithetical to our disposition. In the next age, the age of Gemini, we have the Persian civilization coming to the fore, and in this civilization, rather than perceiving the spirits behind all natural manifestation, they experience reality as a struggle between light and dark. So Ormuzd and Ahriman has expressed in the Zoroastrian religion. So Zarathustra taught these people in the Persian civilization how to work on the earth, work on the darkness with the light. So we start to see this duality emerge in the age of Gemini in the Persian civilization. And then the following cultural age, which takes place under the sign of Taurus, is the Egypto-Chaldean-Babylonian age, in which you have a new level of sophistication come to this culture, which is it becomes like an urban culture. And the way that they were able to achieve this level of sophistication is that they would read the starry script in the night sky, and they noticed correspondences between astrological phenomena and natural phenomena, and they were able to achieve a high level of culture that brought about a bunch of technological advancement. So it was very sophisticated. But in the age in which Jesus was born, which is the next age, the age of Aries, the ram, which is also the sacrificial lamb, this is the age in which, the magi have the revelation that the spirit up in the heavens is going to come down into a physical body. And if you look at those three previous cultural ages, the Indian civilization, very spiritually oriented, so it's kind of up here. And then in the Persian age, we turn our gaze towards the physical earth, and we still have reverence for the spirit over earth, but the disposition is we need to work on earth and put light, put spirit into it. And then we have a descent even further as we become more and more culturally sophisticated. We develop a starry science and work it into our civilization, and things start to get pretty good, and we start to get attached to the physical body. And that's what happens. We see that expressed. We see consciousness descending deepest in the age of Aries, in the cultures of Greece and Rome and the Hebrew culture. And so Steiner refers to this age as the Greco-Latin Hebraic age. And there's all sorts of ways that we can illustrate that matter, the physical earth, kind of becomes the priority in this age, even though there is an inkling of spirit. We actually see spirit in matter itself. And so the gifts from the Magi to Jesus that we celebrate on Epiphany, according to the anthroposophical cosmology, are the fruits of these three previous ages given to this highest being. And so the gold is associated with the ancient Indian civilization, and it has to do with the soul's ability to achieve a higher level in thinking, which you could call imagination, that enables you to perceive the spirit through image pictures. And then the frankincense is the gift of inspiration that the Persian civilization felt when they received the impulses from the spirit in the rays of the sun and worked on the earth. And then the myrrh is the gifts of the Egypto-Chaldean-Babylonian civilization, in which the inspiration is kind of taken a step further, and rather than residing in the feelings, it penetrates down into the will impulses and enables this kind of new level of work and this new level of spiritually informed action to take place. And so these gifts are also associated with thinking, feeling, and willing. And you could think of them as representations, or the means by which the soul is able to be fructified, transformed by the Spirit. And so you can think about the soul as this feminine aspect. Look, we all have a soul that is actually feminine, and we have a spirit, hopefully, that basically informs the soul and transforms the soul into a free entity, a free being that is actually contributing to the evolution of the cosmos with its individual moral activity. And so so they gave this to Jesus because they knew that at the baptism in the Jordan, he was going to be fructified by the Spirit, by Christ. And so his soul was given the ability to evolve to a place where it could receive that gift. So if you're interested in cultivating the capacity for imagination, inspiration, and most importantly, moral intuition, then I highly recommend that you read Rudolf Steiner's Philosophy of Freedom, also known as Intuitive Thinking as a Spiritual Path. It is a difficult read, but very worthwhile, and it starts to just get really awesome in chapter 9, but you need to read those previous chapters because he's laying things out in a very detailed way, and then he sends it forth in chapter 9 and builds on it after that in a really beautiful way. But if you are interested in being able to cultivate moral intuition and learning to live as a free human being that is oriented towards the good of humanity while also being free, it's kind of like a paradox of unity and individuality, or love and freedom. Rudolf Steiner's Philosophy of Freedom, also known as Intuitive Thinking as a Spiritual Path, is where you want to look. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have a blessed season and a blessed year. Thank you.